Welcome back to the Coach and the Cowboy Show. We have another exciting one lined up for you after our amazing webinar that we had last week. And we're excited to kick it off with another Coach's Corner with our great friend Vaughn here in a second. Before we dive into some talk back with him, Reggie, how do you think our first webinar went?
Well, you know, Josh, I thought it went great. We live streamed it, obviously, you know, through this platform. We had it on YouTube, we had it on Facebook. Great event. Ember to Flame. If you haven't checked it out, it's sitting on our YouTube page right now. It's a little goofy because it was a live. So you have to, you know, if you go to our page directly, it's not directly under the videos. You have to go click on the live tab, but it's called Ember to Flame. We rolled for almost 2 hours. I think it was just over 2 hours. We had a Q&A at the end, a couple guest speakers. I thought it went great. So yeah, definitely go check that out. Also Patreon, make sure you're checking that out. It's a little bit deeper dive. So if you like what you're hearing here, we ask even the tougher questions, the deeper questions, and really dive into it, you know, into the topics. So go check out Patreon, Coach Cowboy Show there. And then we're launching a coaching group called Fire and Iron. We've got group coaching starting up in March. So we're T-minus a month away, and we're going to have that rolling too. So super excited about it. But what's cool about this is we were talking kind of pre-show here. This is number 25. I thought it was 24. I miscounted. Josh corrected me. So the coach knows his X's and O's, and he's got them all counted out. But show number 25. So what better way to have a show number 25 than to have our boy Vaughn on? He's a fan favorite. Everybody requests him to come back all the time. So yeah, Vaughn, sure. Welcome back to the
four-time All-Star here.
4-time. I love it. So I think today we're going to do a little bit of recap of sports. We've had a lot of sports happening here. College football wrapping up. We've got the Super Bowl set already. So, you know, NFL playoffs are pretty much wrapped up. Just got the Super Bowl next Sunday. Talk about that. College basketball starting to get really interesting, which is pretty cool. March Madness right around the corner. But today, what we're going to talk about, and I think I love talking about this stuff, is this victim mentality, pity party, woe is me type mentality. And, you know, our experiences with it. How do we get through it? How do we deal with it? How can we feel it coming on? What are some ways and some different dynamics with all of that, and still living life, relationships, and all that stuff too. So anyways, Josh, what do you think here? You're rocking the Ohio State stuff. So the top story, let's kick it off. Ohio State is your 2024-2025 national champions.
What more can I say? I mean, they were the best team in the playoffs, the most dominant team. Mm-hmm. Like we joked about one of our episodes, Chip Kelly finally realized from the 1920s you can throw the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I mean, I could care less about all the naysayers in this awesome, crappy state we live in. But me and Vaughn live in the hated state. But I'm happy we got the chip. We played the best. I don't think any team could beat us the way we looked.
No.
I know, Vaughn, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a championship. I mean, that's the thing is I talk to guys all the time at work about it, and well, you lost. It's an asterisk. Is it though? I mean, let's look at it this way. It's a bigger scale, but you have 68 teams in the NCAA tournament. Duke wins it. They lost to North Carolina. Is anybody really going to remember that? Like, or does anybody really care? Like in football, yeah, it's a little more amped up, and yeah, the rivalry is a lot bigger. But I mean, I don't know. You played your best football when it mattered. Just like in college basketball, those 8-9 seeds that go on a run and win a championship, they played the best basketball when it mattered. Doesn't mean, you know, what's it matter? At the end of the day, the record book still shows their name as a champion.
Right. We
Yeah.
don't have an asterisk next to ours like the cheaters from up north. I'm just saying,
This, for the record, this championship doesn't have an asterisk.
Correct. Ours does not.
This one. Yeah, and I agree with you guys. I mean, Ohio State was clearly the best team. I mean, Notre Dame put up a fight there a little bit, but you knew it was just a matter of time. I'll give Notre Dame a lot of credit. I'm typically not a big Notre Dame guy. I don't like that they can just kind of be off on their own, and they can play whoever they want, and they can, they don't have to follow all the rules and blah, blah, blah. But this team, in my opinion, is pretty likable. I mean, the quarterback, that Leonard, he's a tough guy, really gritty, and everything. The running back, the Love kid, he was really good. Xavier Watts in the secondary, the dude's an absolute stud back there. Nebraska let him slip through. He's an Omaha kid, so let him slip through their fingers. He was going to go there, but got to go to Notre Dame. I don't blame you. But overall, I thought Ohio State was the best team out there. Chip Kelly, called a pretty decent game compared to where he was, where he had been. Obviously, since then, we've had some departures, but you're going to have that, right? They brought this team together to win a national championship. They did that, and now, people can go off and they can do whatever they want to do now, and they'll kind of have that. But I think Ryan Day, kind of got that chip off of his shoulder of the born on third base mentality and stuff. Maybe some of it's still going to be there, but he's kind of an easy target sometimes. But thoughts on Ryan Day? I mean, he's not. I mean, let's not put him up to Urban Meyer status and the best coaches in college football or anything, or where do you kind of stand on that?
I mean, we still have our Fire Ryan Day group chat.
Yeah. What is it? Why? Like his record is pretty much spotless unless it's Michigan. You just won a national championship.
Until this year, his bowl record, subpar. You lose to Georgia, you lost to Missouri in the game.
Yeah, but it was just a simple bowl. That was a bowl game. It wasn't
okay.
Anything. It didn't mean anything.
Still a top 10 matchup. You can't win the big one when you look at it that way. Either way. Yeah. So he got it done this year, but next year will be interesting when you have these new coordinators come in and
new quarterback,
pretty much everything. Transfers from running back and all these guys. So,
okay,
it'll be interesting. Your staple with Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, they're still there, but
yeah. We still
have the best. I was gonna say we still have the best wide receiving core. We still have Tate, him, Ennis, a freshman coming in. We picked up the tight end for Purdue, who was really good. We still have the pieces in place. Their defense might look a little different, but a lot of those guys got to play because we rotate in and out. But I think, Ryan did win the chip. That's good. That's on his record. Let's just move on to the next year and see what we can do. Like a lot of talk at my school is because there's a ton of homers at my school. They remind me every day how much we lost for, but I remind them they're 6-14 since 2000. So you can win your 4 in a row, but we won 9 straight. So, and we have a chip. So it's okay. I'll take it. So.
All right. There you go. Any other thoughts on college football? I don't know. Any big transfer news or recruits or anything?
The only big crazy one was the one we talked about like back in the episodes when the one coach left Marshall and everybody went with him.
Yeah.
wherever he went to, the whole team transferred in the portal. But nothing too crazy is shaken up.
One thing I will say, and this is, I would say this, even though this is a Nebraska thing, this is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, and I haven't really dove into it or heard a lot of people talking about it. Nebraska is not going to televise their spring game, and they might not even have a spring game. It might just be like a glorified practice. And what's really interesting about that is is typically, if you look at the top, whatever, highly attended spring games, Nebraska is always in the top 5, if not higher. And they're almost doing away with it because they don't want film of their guys to get out because of poachers, of coming in, transfers, and all this other stuff. So it's a little interesting, a little cat and mouse game. I get it. I don't know how all that's going to shake out. But the transfer portal is a very real thing. And it's, at some point, the NCAA's got to step in, or the governing body's got to step in, because these coaches cannot sit here and recruit 1-year contracts every year. It's just not fair. I mean, no other sport is like that. The NFL, Patrick Mahomes is under contract. He can't go anywhere, right? And it's going to, I know it's kind of fun sometimes, but other times it's like, bro, what are we doing here?
I mean, it's like you saw, I don't know if you guys saw it, but on Twitter, I saw right away after the championship, teams are offering Jeremiah Smith $5+ million. So it's like,
yeah,
really? Like, I mean, I get it. It's great, but it's like, I don't know. It's getting out of control.
Yeah, but
wild west.
The one good thing I will say, and then we can move on after this, is the one thing I do like is the whole parity thing, right? You've noticed there's been a little bit of a power shift, especially this year, from the South to more spread out, even teams to the North. So typically, the quote unquote bagmen, the running joke of the SEC, that doesn't have as strong as effect as it has presumably in the past. Now, time will tell with that, right? We've got to have some data on that. We're talking about 1 year, 2 years into this, but that will be something to watch if we can shift the power back to the North a little bit, into Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, or not Pac-12 anymore, but whatever, right? And away from the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, and all that.
Well, you kind of hit the nail in the coffin there. You saw the playoff. We had Big 10 had 4 teams in.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1 year, right?
I know, but
we need data to in year after year, because the SEC dominated year after year.
That's true,
and they were there. So we'll any thoughts on Luka getting traded to the Lakers? I don't know, Josh, you want to talk about that?
I'll let everybody know right now. If you think you're not replaceable at work, take that trade in consideration.
That's a good post. We're gonna put that out. We're gonna put that out. You don't think you're replaceable at work?
That's perfect. Perfectly said. The only other thing I was thinking about for college next year, I kind of want to see how. I know you're gonna hate me, but I want to see how Deion's gonna do without his sons. So just kind of curious, and without Travis Hunter. But
yeah, that'll be interesting. I thought he would probably jump ship, but obviously he's sticking around. The Cowboys hired somebody else, and the Raiders, I forget who they hired.
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll. That's right. So I thought he might take one of those 2 jobs, but I don't know.
I mean, he's got enough Hall of Fame coaches coming in to coach up the team. So
Hall of Fame players, not Hall of Fame coaches.
Okay, my bad. There's
a big difference there.
Hey, real quick. Speaking of that, would you guys real quick for college? Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson have had coaching jobs.
Deshaun Jackson was last year, right? Was it or no? Who? Arian Foster. Was it Arian Foster? Who's the head coach of UCLA?
Yeah.
Is it Arian Foster? It is a Foster.
It's Foster. I can't think of his first name. But no, yeah, Deshaun Jackson just got a new one, and so did Michael Vick. So that should be interesting.
I mean, whatever. It's kind of the trend right now is to go to players. The only problem I see with that is typically, if you own a plumbing business, your best plumber isn't necessarily a good business owner, right? Like he's really good at turning a wrench, but he doesn't know jack when it comes to business. So, and that's the only thing I would say is, yeah, these guys were great athletes, obviously Hall of Fame type careers and household names, but like how good of a coach are you? It's 2 totally different things. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Vaughn?
Well, you just got to hire the vacuum salesman, the vacuum repairman salesman. He'll go record for you.
This need the Willie Beeman on their staff. They'll be good to go.
Willie Beeman.
Hey, but let's transition real quick. Just quick into a quick little quiz, and let's dive into our main topic that we want to talk about tonight.
Study all day, baby.
All right. So let's see if you guys can put your mind power together. All right, here we go. College football. Name the 5 teams never to lose 9 games.
Ohio State's on there.
They are. That's one of them.
I saw this TikTok. I can't remember.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Never to lose 9 games in their history.
Correct.
I don't think Michigan's going to be on here. I think Michigan had some problems there. I think they were 3-9 with Rich Rod one year. I believe Nebraska's been 3-9 as well. So I don't think they're going to be on here. Texas.
Are we guessing or are we just throwing?
I'm going to say Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is on the list.
Okay. What about Penn State? What do you think about Penn State, Vaughn? How did that transition from Joe Pa go?
I went right to Franklin. Not terrible. But I don't know.
They went
to Bill O'Brien.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Billy
So not great.
Well, yeah, but not like a 3-9. But that was.
He only coached there 1 year. All right, so we got Ohio State and we got Oklahoma on the board. Who else we got?
I'm going to say USC.
They are not on the list.
Okay. I was going to say Florida State, but I think there was some rough times.
How about this year?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Not to lose 9 games.
Do you want a hint?
Sure.
2 of them were in the playoff this year.
I think Georgia could be on this list.
They are on the list.
Boise's a no. Oregon, but Oregon was pretty rough for a while.
I don't know. Boise's never had that tough of a.
Yeah, I don't know them before the Peterson guy.
I keep saying Boise because you said it and Josh's eyes kind of perked up. So I was trying to see if I could hint it out.
How many teams are there? There's
5.
4? 5?
You have Ohio State.
I don't know. What do we?
Oklahoma and Georgia. So the other 2 are Tennessee. And the one you already said, which you jumped off of, is actually the team up north.
Michigan?
Yep.
Wow. I thought they were 3-9 with Rich Rod. Huh. Interesting.
And then last trivia question. This might be more in Reggie's pocket because Vaughn probably wasn't even born yet. But what are the only 2 teams in college football to win the Natty back-to-back in the 90s?
Well, Nebraska.
Correct.
The only teams to win back-to-back?
In the 90s.
It had to be Miami then. Okay, so let's think about this. Colorado was up there, but they didn't go back-to-back. Florida State?
No.
They won it. I'm just saying they won it.
Yeah, okay.
Miami had won in there. Nebraska, Florida, Nebraska. Who won in 99?
That was Florida State.
Florida State. There was two teams that won back to back in the 90s. So it had to be early 90s.
Yeah, it's Nebraska. And you want me to give you the answer, or are you gonna? No
Vaughn,
guess?
it's not Florida State. It's not Colorado.
I only guess it's Oklahoma, but I don't know when they were good.
No.
It's actually so. I thought it was Miami myself when I guessed at this quiz, but it's not.
And it's not Penn
It's
State.
Alabama
Alabama
in the 90s. Yeah.
Here's a trivia question. Who was a quarterback for Alabama in the 90s?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's crazy.
That was just our fun little trivia.
Vaughn, our engineer, you got to figure that out. You got to cue that up, buddy.
Oh, let's see here.
Who was on that Alabama team? That was before Sean Alexander, right? That would have been before him.
Yeah, Sean was in like the 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
Man, my computer's so slow. It's so much easier doing it on your phone.
No, don't worry about it. We'll get you a better one when you come on as a tech guy. So
yeah, my great technology skills.
Exactly. Let's jump into kind of what we want to get into, which is all around a victim mentality, right? We've all been there before. We've all played the woe is me card, and it is so easy to sit there and throw a pity party. With the rise of social media, and you can see everybody's great stuff, and they're so happy and they're so in love and all this stuff, but look at my life. The problem is you don't know the inner workings of that relationship. You don't know, they went to Bali and it looked like a crazy vacation, but they're over their head in credit card debt or wherever, right? So we don't know what's happening behind doors. So I guess, Vaughn, because you're the guest, so you're going to lead this off. The victim mentality, like, how has that impacted you? What have you learned from it? Like, what's kind of a story that you can share with us around this?
Well, I mean, I was 10 years old. My parents got divorced.
Okay.
And I think the start of the whole victim thing was, maybe it was just me, but from everybody I've talked to that's ever been a child of divorce, there's at some point in their, what do you call it, grieving process, it's my fault, right? Like, mom and dad don't like each other because I did something wrong, right? I did whatever. I didn't take the trash out. I didn't do this. Mom and dad got in a fight. Now, well, I mean, so it's easy to play victim and say, well, it's my fault. It's my fault that I have, 2 beds now, 2 Christmases, and 2 whatever. And so I was 10, my little brother was 5. I mean, and it hits you. It hits you hard. And at the time I was alone. I think I was the first friend in my friend group that their parents got divorced. So I was flying alone, and it overwhelmed me really quickly. It was, we're all going over to, Josh's house this weekend. Oh, I got to go to my dad's. Now granted, my parents were very, don't get me wrong, they didn't like each other, but they put it together for my brother and I. And my mom actually stayed in town because we were already in school and we already had our friend groups and we had all this stuff. So she stayed close. We lived 10 minutes from my dad, so I could go there whenever I wanted. But it was, I got to see my dad every other weekend and Tuesday and Wednesday. So when I had a chance, I took it. So I think that really started. That was kind of my big, it's easy to get down on yourself when you think it's you're the problem, or you're the reason why something happened, especially something of that magnitude.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, you're at 10 years old and your parents are getting divorced. I mean, your whole world is getting shook, right? My kids were approximately the same age when mine went down. And I mean, around that age. And yeah, it is definitely tough. I mean, was there anything that was said to you that kind of planted that seed of this is partly your fault, or it is your fault, or I mean,
looking back now as a 30-year-old adult, no, but
yeah,
you know, and maybe it was wrong, maybe it was right. My dad was very upfront with me on stuff, and I won't get into details of what happened, but their relationship went down the crapper, and he sat me down and he said, "This is what's happening," and
gotcha.
maybe good, bad, and different. It shaped what the next 8 years of my childhood, living under court. I don't want to say court ordered, but the courts have their say and stuff, and I was very blessed. My parents didn't strictly follow that once they got into their groove. I know you guys have talked about that before, finding your guys' partners or former partner, whatever, however things work. And once they found that, it was very much my brother and I kind of controlled when we wanted to go over, when do we want to go to dad's, when we want to stay at mom's, when do we, whatever we want to do. So, I mean, I don't think there's ever, especially looking back at it now, I don't think there was ever a time where I pinpointed something and said, "Oh man, I didn't let the dog out and it pooped in the house, and now dad's yelling at everybody." And it's
Did you have to take, like, your brother's younger than you, so were you like have to help him out a little bit through all this transition, or like let him know that let him know that even though mom and dad aren't together, they still love us, and it's just going to be different now.
It was I hate saying this, but to me, in my mind, it makes sense. The younger the kids are when it happens, the better off they are. And it's crazy because there's 5 years difference between me and my brother, but I remember family dinners, sit around the table and have a family dinner. My brother, no recollection. As far as he's concerned, life was always mom and dad are apart.
Yeah.
And I mean, definitely not giving marital advice or anything like that, but personally myself, I think it's the younger they are, if it's not going to work, if you can, whatever, it's better for, I think personally it's better. I know just in our, maybe we'll get there, but I was a little shit as a teenager because of it. And maybe, we'll see how that goes, and maybe we'll get into some of that, but
yeah. Well, how was the relationship with your mom? Because you said your dad, sat you down. He's very upfront with you, straightforward. Obviously, just going by kind of what you're saying and doing some quick math in your head, I mean, you're with your mom a lot more. And I mean, how was that dynamic?
Well, still, I'm gonna start off with this. If my mom's watching this, I love her to death. I really do.
We're getting into a therapy session here.
Yes. So I'll set it up. And I'm not talking ill of either parent, but my dad passed away a couple of years ago, so it's a little. I'm more open about that anyway. My dad and I had a very open relationship on talking about things, and he was a little older when he had me, so his way of thinking is, he's probably, your guys' parents' age, So I was younger, had an older dad. I got, the ins and outs of how he brought me up. But, my mom, she had her parents were divorced as well. So I think she kind of really latched onto that and tried to almost overcompensate on things. And I'm honest, we had a rough relationship. And we talk about this all the time now. Like I said, I was a shithead from 10 years old until 16, 17. I wasn't going out and getting in criminal trouble, but if she had a date with a guy, I was making sure she was 20 minutes late at least.
Mm-hmm.
There was times I remember that she dropped me off at my grandma's. I went and stood out in front of her car, and every time she moved, I moved with it. Like, she wasn't going without me. Like, it's things like that. And maybe it was because she started dating again, and my dad never did. There was always it's silly, but there's always that slim hope that I thought they get back together, we'd have the perfect little family. Yeah. But it's good now. We talk now. We probably once a week we get on the phone and we talk about it, and things come up, relationship stuff comes up, and we talk through it. And
how was that come out? Can you think of anything just off the top of your head, like where something like that, your parents splitting up and kind of this pity party of it's my fault and that victim mentality, like, has that come up lately or more recent, like as an adult and going through life and obviously in your own relationships and all this stuff?
Definitely. It took a lot. Especially moving away from home and not having that, the girl I dated at home, I could, go to my dad's house or go to my mom's house and just get away and do whatever. But here it was me. And there were definitely times, and again, I won't get into the details of what happened with my parents, but there was times when Ryan would go to do something and something in my brain clicked. And it's like, oh my gosh, I saw this as a child, and it's nothing against her. And, I trust her with everything. Like, trust falls. I could be on a cliff. I know she's going to catch me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just something in the brain that just goes, hey, it triggered.
Yeah. And I think we're all wired right like that, right? A little bit of as hard as we try to, we kind of emulate what we saw. It's just kind of human nature to do that. Unless there's something so tragic that a parent's an alcoholic, your dad's an alcoholic, and he beats you. Okay, that's a crazy example. And you're like, I am never drinking again because of this one example, right? But other than that, a lot of times you look back and, a lot of my mannerisms and the way I talk and things that I do, you can see in my dad and my brothers and everything else, where it's just like, that's just kind of who we are.
Yeah. And I saw there's those things that try to come out. And, but I, on the flip to that, my dad's parents were married for 68 years, and they lived right around the corner. And I was down there every day in the summer. And we had, my grandpa pulled garden tractors, and I did that when I was a kid with him. And every Sunday I was with grandpa, and we go fishing and we do this and we do that. And so I had this perfect relationship to model my life after. But I think there's a difference when, night in and night out, not that I remember it in detail, but night in and night out, there's an argument in the house, and, why is mom sleeping in our room tonight? Like,
no, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. So for me, this is going to sound kind of weird. I'd have to draw it to be better, but my parents got divorced when I was in freshman year of college. And this is probably the first time I'm going to say this. So because of that, I think it ruined a relationship I had, and I took it and I was really upset. So I kind of just did whatever and just blew this whole relationship up and everything that I had with this girl. And then my parents ended later on in life. My parents ended up getting remarried later on. And the weirdest thing happened, like, because they weren't married for like, oh, let's just say 5 years. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but they were not together for 5 years. And my mom called me and says, hey, me and your dad decided to get married again. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she like yelled at me. I was like, aren't you happy? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not used to this. Like I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do for a minute. I was like, cool, but they're probably watching this. So if I say this, I still
leave it alone, Barb. Don't text them.
Love you, mom and dad.
Yeah.
Don't kill me.
Yeah. But I still,
we'll send you a sticker.
With the mentality that you said, I still felt like it was a little bit of maybe me and my brother's fault that they got divorced the first time. And it took them long enough to, to whatever, figure it out and get back together. But I still feel like I still blame my younger siblings still this day for other things in this whole melting pot process. But,
really? That's interesting.
That's an off-camera conversation.
That's Patreon, not even Patreon. That's
you got to pay. You got to pay for that.
Patreon.
But no, like Vaughn's right. Like you're like, I had friends that were parents that were divorced, and they're like, "Oh man, I can't come because I have to go to my dad's." I'm like, "Oh," but when your parents happen, you're like, "Oh, I'm one of them now. I'm one of those statistics now," and you're like, "I don't want that to happen for me." And then of course, I blow up a relationship back in the day, and it's all because of that. And then thinking back, I was like, I never did that. It wasn't because of that. I wasn't mad. I was just, it didn't work out. But then you think about it, and to bring the whole story forward later on in life, me and that girl met up again at a McDonald's, and we just talked, and I apologized for all the things that went through, and we became friends again, which was great because it was eating at me for years. And she said, when the parents got divorced, I remember this. She's like, don't make this ruin us just because your parents are doing this. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then it happened. So
that's actually pretty. I thought the story was going to take a turn. Barb, if you're still listening, earmuffs. Hey, I thought it was going to be we met up at a McDonald's and
little
bathroom.
No, I don't know what shows you're watching at home, but
I'm not watching those shows. What are you talking about? Anyway,
but no, I'm sure like we're all thinking like, because we've been through the divorce process different ways, but we're all like, man, we're just part of that statistic now.
Yeah.
That we don't want that. Like I don't want that for me now or my kids or stuff like that, but it happens. It's life. But
the ironic thing is my parents were married for probably 27, 28, 29 years, something like that, and got a divorce. I was a freshman in college, and then they got remarried probably 3 or 4 years after that. So and they're still married to this day and everything. So kind of interesting. Yeah, that whole dynamic. I didn't take the mentality of it's my fault though. And I don't know why. I'm not sure why, like the difference, right? Like we were similar ages and stuff. And how does that work? And Vaughn, I know you were a little bit younger when that happened. And just that whole mentality. I mean, there's definitely been times where I've taken ownership where I shouldn't have, where it's like, hey, that's my fault. That's my fault. It's all on me. And somebody's like, what are you talking about, bro? That's not even on you. It's,
well, I think it's your parents. I think you feel like you're the kid and something happened that you disagreed with. And they're like, I can't deal with this. Or you're doing too much for the one kid and not for the other, or you're not backing me on this and I can't do this anymore or something. I'm just throwing scenarios out the window right now. But as a kid, or even when I was in college, like, I thought I was fine, but I wasn't. But for Vaughn, he's like, what did we do? Like, it can't just be you guys hate each other. There's gotta be, I must be the one that's caused it.
And we're just at different points in our life when that happened, right? You and I are off in college. We're, we're not focused on what's at home. We're focused on, who's got the fake ID to this weekend so we can go get some beer, right? Like, how are we going to scrounge
for 4-2?
Yeah. How are we going to scrounge up enough for a 30 rack of Keystone Lights or some natty lights? Not
Miller High Life on special.
Hey, it's champagne and beers. That's good stuff, bro. Don't knock it. Yeah.
I also would say to that effect, you guys at that time were had seen some adult things, like 16, 17, 18, start getting
Mm-hmm.
into work or relationships and whatever, and
That's a good point.
and
Yeah.
maybe you say, oh yeah, well, okay, well, me and so and so didn't work out. No, mom and dad didn't. Whatever. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
10. Don't even think I knew what a girl was. Still don't.
You're just like video games and
I'm not
sports.
touching that comment. We're gonna save that for later.
Let's jump into this. I think this will really help some people out. Really, I love practical things like real life. How do I help myself, or how do I avoid this victim mentality? Right, because we're going to run into it, whether it's a relationship, whether it's with your kids, whether it's your job, whether it's whatever. Right. What are 5 steps that you can do to avoid having victim mentality, pity party, whatever? I think this number one is the foundation of it all, and that is taking responsibility for your own life. Right now, okay, listen, what we've talked about so far is a little it's tough, right? As a 10-year-old to take responsibility for your own life and and make sure that you don't take ownership over something that you had no control over, right? That's a really, really mature way to think as a 10-year-old, but more so of like as an adult, right?
I will tell you, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but at 10 years old, my mom got an apartment in town. I made friends with all the kids in the apartment complex. Some of I met probably one of my best friends ever
Wow.
at that apartment complex, and I think kind of got lucky because there was a lot of kids in that boat. It was a lot of single parents. It was a lot of low income single parents, and that was something that I had friends that were I could see if they were home real quick. I didn't have to go get in a car and go somewhere. I could do this stuff. I also my mom still worked. My mom did stuff, and I come home from school and take care of my brother until mom got home. So there was a responsibility of something to do. It wasn't just 10-year-old brain do nothing.
Yeah, and it's funny because you just saying that little example, there's about there's about 3 other spots that you're going to hit on this list that we'll get to, right? Because you did those things, and that's how you can still have a great childhood or seem happy in that, even though your world is getting flipped upside down, right? But I promise you, there's somebody listening to this right now, driving to work, their wife, their life is miserable, their wife is going to leave them or whatever. Maybe they just got divorced, or maybe they just got kicked out of the house, or they lost their job, and they're thinking, why me? Why does this always happen to me? And this is my lot in life. You've got to stop that. You've got to control how you respond to the situation. You've got to take responsibility for where you are, so then you can start to move forward, right? And then I think the number 2 thing is to reframe and get some good self-talk going. And what can you learn from this, right? Because life has a tendency of repeating itself, right? We're creatures of habit. And until we learn a lesson, life will keep saying, hey, Josh, you need to learn this lesson. You need to learn this lesson. When are you going to learn? When are you going to learn? And then until you really reframe your mind and you get some positive self-talk and you start to really focus and kind of reflect on what's happened, there's no way that you're going to see this pattern throughout your life of the same mistakes happening and over. And you're like, dude, all I need to do is I need to do this. I need to confront. I need to take ownership. You know what I mean?
But I agree with you. But sometimes, like probably people listening, that's not easy to do though. When you're in that situation, you're like making me have flashbacks when me and my daughter's mom didn't work out and she left, and I didn't come home because I knew that day she was moving all the stuff out. So when I came home to like barely anything, which was fine. I was like, just take everything, like, you know, because you're mad and you're like, whatever, I don't need any of those memories, whatever, just take them with you.
Yeah.
But I realized, just leave the TV. That's all I need. I paid for that TV. That's mine. But no, like I never told him about this, but I come home from work and just sleep on the floor in my pillow with my pillow and just be like, I've got nothing. I have no one. I have nothing. And then I just realized one morning, I don't know if it was God talking to me or just a head in your voice, like ping. They're like, "What are you doing with your life? Like, this isn't all your fault. You need to get up and get out there and, you know, figure things out," which is not easy at all. It's going to take, you know, one step at a time, like you said, and reframe. But these lessons is going to take you time to learn about them and figure them out. I mean, will you make the same mistake? Sure. But you'll learn,
100%.
but it might not be the first time. It might be like 3 times down the road. But, but no, just thinking about it. And what I need to do more is like to be raw right now is work on a couple things that are not happening in my life right now. And it's probably talking with a lot of people. And I know we don't talk about this a lot on the show, but I think it's probably putting God first and getting back into the word for me. I think he's probably saying something as in like, hey, you're not paying attention, so this isn't going to happen. And you're going to try to go your own way, but I'm the one that's in charge. That's just me just talking. I don't want to off topic, but that's just me thinking about and I need to do better at that. And there's some things, like I said, in my life, they're not working. I got to remember that I need to put that first and everything else falls into place.
Yeah. So. And you know, you're not going to be coming home from divorce court, right, or whatever, where it's official, or you just moved out, and that night is like, I listen to this podcast, now I got to do these 5 steps and everything. Like, there's going to be a season, right? You're going to be grieving. You're going to be going through that stuff for sure. You know, that's funny because the 3rd step, it rolls right into what you just said, taking small steps. You've got to take some type of action. Because the victim mentality loves to stay put, right? It loves to just sit there and sulk, and it loves to sit there in darkness and alone and everything else. But once you start shining light on it, once you start taking action, once you start, I need to go for a walk. I need to breathe. I need to do something other than laying here on my floor, cuddled up to my pillow, watching Netflix for, 6 hours a night, 7 hours a night. Listen, I have those days too, 100%. But over and over and over is no bueno, not good. You have got to take action. You've got to create a plan, and you've got to focus on what you can do and what you can control, which is your actions and your attitude.
Yeah, because like you said, you're not going to change anything if you don't do anything. You're not. You'll be like, man, nothing's changed, but you haven't moved from watching Netflix, eating ice cream, like we talked about before in a lot of our podcasts. Maybe go to the gym or 100%. Call that friend you haven't connected to and just say, hey, man, can we grab a drink or grab a bite to eat? Can we chat? And that could change everything. Just a little something. Or like Vaughn said when he was 10, he had those kids in the neighborhood. He's like, hey, you guys come play, and that maybe made him more happy and changed his outset, instead of just
he literally opened the apartment door and walked out to the courtyard. Or walked out to the place that
instead of being like, dang it, my mom moved to this apartment complex. But he tried to turn it into a positive way,
Yeah. In fact, it probably was a lot cooler because he's like, sweet. I've got like 20 friends all around me all the time.
I went from no neighbors to a bunch of neighbors. Those pickup
running
football
running the
games
streets.
are a lot more fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's funny because the next one, number 4, is surround yourself with solution-oriented people. And it plays right into your example, Vaughn. You're surrounding yourself with people, with kids that are like, hey, I got a football, let's play some football. And now you're out playing football. You're not thinking about your parents. You're not thinking about this. You're not thinking about that, about, all the other life's whatever. You're just out playing football. You're having fun. Like Josh, you're out lifting weights with a buddy. You're not thinking about, what's my life goals and how is this going to play, what's going to happen to my retirement or what's going to happen to this. And, what about that? And how am I going to find somebody, to spend the rest of my life with? You're like, I don't know. I'm not focused on that right now. I'm focused on I need 10 reps here, or I'm at open gym playing basketball with the guys, or I'm playing cards and we're just hanging out and we're just cutting it up. And just you're around a group of people. And little plug here, that's why we've got the Fire and Iron coaching, right? Around a group of people, of solution-oriented people that will listen to you, but then will also come beside you and say, hey, what action are we going to take? How are we going to get you from where you are right now to where you want to go? That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in your story for sure, but we're not going to stay there. Okay. We're going to focus on where you want to go and how do we get you there?
I was going to add on real quick. Sorry. I was thinking,
fire away, man.
That even with the coaching that we want to, start off, that we'll listen, we've all been in the same boat, maybe a different seat. So we can give you a different perspective.
Ooh, I like that.
That's not something you maybe thought of. But another thing makes me think back to when, I came back to Michigan, fought for my rights and all that jazz. Anyways, like talked about going to the gym. So I went to the gym, met some guys, and that helped me get through the time of figuring out how to like have time with my daughter, figure out how to, figure all that out. But the greatest thing is, if you don't think about this, like even Vaughn probably could say this too, about the 30 kids he ran into playing football, is some of these people just come in your life for a little bit and then they go. But that helps you each time. That's like a person that gets you over this one hump. You meet somebody else in the next one. And eventually, we've been talking on this podcast a ton, is then you find that community, those people that can hold you accountable or can talk into you, like you were saying, Reggie.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say something on my bad. The last one, and then I do have a bonus. I just thought about that one, is practicing gratitude, right? A lot of times when we're stuck in this woe is me, pity party, why is this always happening, all this stuff, we're just focused on negative, right? And we're negative, and it's going to spiral. We can spiral down so fast in our own minds. So if we can clear that out and focus on gratitude, journaling, focusing on what we do have instead of what we don't have, focus on where we're going, not where we're at, that can help bring stuff in perspective. I mean, there's so many times that people would wish for our problems that we think are so big. You know what I mean? And it's just the fact of life. There's all these different sayings that you can, and analogies you can have. But the point is that we live in a pretty good world. And it's usually not as good as what we think it is, but it is definitely not as bad as what we think it is. And, just practicing gratitude, I think is a big one.
It's like that saying, until you walk in somebody's shoes, don't, like judge what's going on with them, kind of thing. That's what it kind of made me think of when you were saying that.
Yeah. The bonus. Oh, go ahead, Vaughn.
That's just personal experience, definitely living that as a child, as a teenager, whatever, and all your friends. I mean, one of my good buddies in high school, it was we were on the basketball team. His parents always took off work, always got to the games, every game. You looked out and you saw their spot. They were there. That was their spot. And my parents, if they did come to the game, one was at the top of the gym, one was over by the door, so you got to look. You got to go find them. You got to, crawl through this, you got to go talk to mom. Then you got to go talk to dad. And then, then there's grandma and grandpa. And, but just, you think they just have the best, you think they're good. You think, man, I wish that was me. And I still like the guy, still talk to him every once in a while, but I love my life and I wouldn't change a thing about it. And I think it just took a little bit more time for me to realize that, and I got it bad now because mom and dad aren't sitting next to each other, but in the long run, I got a lot of life lessons. I got a lot of valuable experience to use, in my relationships with girls or, whatever, friends, anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times we learn more from the bad in our life than the good. I mean, that's just how it works. And side note, is there anything more like is there anything more awkward than like, you just lost a tough game, grandma and grandpa are there, mom and dad are there, and they want to talk to you after the game? You're like, I don't want to talk. Is this a press conference where if I'm not here, I'm going to get fined? Like, thanks for coming. I appreciate you coming, and you got to try to put on a smile and be like, hey, yeah, thanks, grandma and grandpa, for coming. And,
I do have a good.
That's a nice shirt, grandma. Appreciate you wearing my pin on your shirt. Yeah,
I never got that. I just got do better. Do better.
Yeah,
that's all I got. Do better.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, my dad would tell me in the car, but like grandpa and grandma were there, and of course, grandma's like, "Oh, this is funny." My grandpa's sitting right next to her, and he's like, "Oh, I can't remember what game it was. I don't remember if it was baseball, football. I can't remember the game right now, but I remember is what he said." Grandma's like, "Oh, you guys played hard. It's all right." My grandpa goes, "Fuck that. They should have played a lot better. That's bullshit. Next time you better win by 20." And I was like, "Yep, all right."
So that's where you get your locker room speeches from.
Okay.
Understand how it's all making sense. It's all making sense.
Josh's locker room speeches. Oh, that just unlocked a terrible memory.
Lord.
Kicking trash.
All right. Little bonus material here. One of the big things is no more excuses, right? When you are in a victim mentality, when you are throwing yourself a pity party, they thrive there. They thrive on excuses, on justifying, on avoiding, all of that stuff. You have got to take control of your life. You have got to own your future. And the way to do that is to say, I am responsible for me moving forward. Whatever's happened has happened, right? My parents are divorced. My lot in life is this, blah, blah, blah. But from here forward, it's me. It's not because of the economy. It's not because of the person in the White House. It's not because of my ex-wife. It's not because of, my ex-spouse. It's not because my high school coach didn't like me and he benched me. And if he would have put me in, I would be all pro and blah, 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 blah. No, it is your responsibility. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. No more excuses. I don't know, a little fired up here to wrap up the podcast, but
you almost sound like our boy Jason Tracy coming out biting off faces and swinging punches.
Man, I'm not dropping the F-bombs like you and Tracy though. I'm a family-friendly guy. This beard is friendly, and it's coming in good. I might have a squirrel in here, like Cousin Eddie style, like a squirrel coming out. I don't know where that came from. We'll edit that out.
Oh,
you probably should. You probably should edit that out. But
anyways, Vaughn, what do you think? Victim mentality. Any kind of final thoughts on that?
Not so much on that. I know you guys recapped at the beginning, but I just want to say thank you for that seminar. I know I reached out to you guys the next day about this, and it's just something that seminar just clicked in my brain and said, it's something you got to talk about. It's something, maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody's listening. I don't know. I know it looked like some of your students were listening. Maybe they're going through something. They need somebody to reach out to, somebody's kid is, why me? Why me? I know, and, in high school, when my parents started getting divorced, they come to me and say, what do you do? How do you handle this? How do you do that? And you guys' seminar just really made me think, if I can help somebody, if it's, a full-grown adult that has never talked about it, they buried it deep down inside, or if it's a kid that's freshly going through it, I mean, I would love to help. I know I buried it down. My mom tried to force me to go to therapy. I'd go for an hour and sit, and I wouldn't say a word. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it with somebody I had no clue who they were. Mm. And I mean, I know I'm somebody, a lot of people don't know me, and that's fine. But I think somebody that can connect, even if it's a video game, I mean, I'll get on and play football with you for 20 minutes and talk about nothing. If that's what helps, that's what helps, man. I mean, everybody does it their own way. And if I can help in any way, I definitely would love to.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
It's great to hear that just listening to our podcast that something inside you said, hey, you know what? I've been having this on my mind or on my heart. And you're like, hey, I need to get this out here to maybe somebody that I can reach or help or just be that like buddy just to chat with. That's great. I'm glad that that you found your voice in this.
Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of programs too, and maybe you're in the same way where Vaughn's at, and you're listening to this, and you're like, yeah, man, I feel like giving back. I want to help, kids. I want to help people that are in troubled situation. Big Brothers Big Sisters is a great organization that people can get plugged into. I know locally there's one called Reaching Higher. They do a lot with the schools and coming in and teaching different, positive things and whatnot. It's a kind of like a nonprofit that is out there. So, or, reach out to us and we can help you, get hooked up and moving forward with that, because yeah, absolutely. The only way truly that you're going to help yourself, and one of the best things you could do as an accountability to your own self and where you want to go in life, is to turn around and help other people.
Yeah. I mean, I said, those two have my gamer tag, my phone number, my email. If, nobody should feel pressured to talk to somebody about something they don't want to. And, there's people that will listen. There's people that just want to listen. And I've learned that, there's going to be days that I could talk for an hour and you could say nothing, and that's great. And that gets you through because you hear something that goes through. And there could be times where you talk for an hour and I don't say anything, and that's great too. I mean, it's all, emotions are crazy, and getting through something is definitely an emotional roller coaster in itself.
Yeah. And I think just knowing that someone is there, like, hey, I'm not going to judge you. I'm here for you. You want to talk about it? Great. You don't want to talk about it? Great. I'm going to be here no matter what. And, like you said, why am I going to talk to somebody I don't know or don't trust or whatever? But just by playing a video game, by going for a walk, by getting an ice cream, whatever, you're building that trust and, able to move forward with that. So, Josh, any last thoughts on this? We'll get this one wrapped up. We'll continue this on Patreon. I got some questions for Vaughn, tough hitting questions, like for real. They're that's not a joke. They actually are tough questions. So we'll dive into it a little bit more on Patreon. Check that out. But yeah.
I thought this episode was great. I appreciate you, Vaughn, for opening up and speaking from the heart that you want to help people. This is the reason why me and Reggie have this podcast, to help people be the voice or get their voice out there, to reach people in their time of need, or just to have a conversation. We really do appreciate it. And like Reggie said, we're going to finish this up on Patreon with some more deep questions. But like we always say here, thank you for riding along with the Coach and the Cowboy. Until next time, saddle up and keep chasing your dreams.